Let's bring in National Senator Matt Canavan now for the latest. He joins us live. Matt, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So, is it acceptable that this young girl was crook for 10 days before needing extra medical help and being flown to Perth for that?
Well, Peter, good morning, and I can't make definitive conclusions about someone's medical health. I'm not exactly sure how sick or what the circumstances were over that 10-day period. I'm confident, though, that the health services we offer to this family, as we do to all families in detention, is of a standard that Australians would expect. I can't recall incidents in the past where inadequate health services have been provided. There is repatriation to Australia where that's required as well, and there are medical services on the ground. So that's what's seems to have happened here, and I wish that family all the best. The family, as you say, was in Biloela. That's just a couple of hours west of where I am here in Rocky, and they were well loved in the community, and my heart goes out to them in these circumstances. But we must maintain a strict refugee intake regime. This family were not found to be refugees by the courts. Now, they're challenging that in the courts, which is their right. But we've got to have those standards in place to make sure we keep the people smuggling away from our shores.
And the courts are so far ruling in their favour.
Well, they're ruling in their favour in the sense that they can continue their appeal. But my understanding is the courts have not ruled that that the ministers made the incorrect decision to not classify them as refugees. As I say, that's their right to go through those court processes, and the courts can, of course, put injunctions on the decisions that were made by the government. That this is taking a long time, as can sometimes happen through our legal system. But I don't think we should have special arrangements in place for anybody. We need to have a consistent regime so that there is a consistent message to the people smugglers that you're not welcome in this country. We do not want to see that tragic trade reopened as it was 10 years or so ago.
Jason Clare on the show a bit earlier, he pointed to the fact that Tony Abbott and Alan Jones and even your Nationals colleague Barnaby Joyce is for that family to stay. So why is your opinion opposed to theirs?
Well, I kind of just outlined that. As I say, I think we need consistent rules and principles in place here. As I say, that particular family were, from my understanding, well-loved members of the Biloela community. It's no judgment on themselves as individuals or as a family. It's just that we have these rules in place for all. And if we start making exemptions for some, that will attract others to try and become those some, to come here and do so dangerously, do so paying people, criminals, lots of money, and threaten lives and livelihoods of our own Border Force officials. So I don't think that's something we should move away from. We've got a very consistent, yes, strict border control measures, but it's also been very successful. The rest of the world is looking to Australia to what they can do. We can see what's happening on the American border at the moment, where they've seemingly lost control there, and drug cartels are running rampant. We're very lucky in this country to have protected our border. We don't have that trade ongoing right now, so we cannot risk it reopening.
So if they get sent back, I mean, do you expect that they would just get persecuted for their beliefs?
Well, let's be clear. If there were evidence that they would be persecuted for their beliefs, they would qualify for refugee status under our obligations, and they would not be sent or returned to their place of departure. Now, I don't know all the circumstances in this case, except to say that, as I said earlier, that the minister and the government did not find they met that test, and the courts have not found that yet to this stage. Now, they're still challenging that in the courts. And if the courts decide otherwise, of course, the Australian government would comply with any decision.
Okay, on to the Queensland Premier, Anastasia Palaszczuk. She's 51 years old. She had a Pfizer vaccine yesterday, and government advice stipulates that those over the age of 50 should be getting AstraZeneca. What do you make of that and her reasoning for that?
Well, I've defended the Premier in this case. Obviously, that's a pretty rare circumstance for me to be in, but I don't like where we're going, Peter, where we start criticising people's health and medical choices. I've always been an advocate for choice in your medical options as a person, as an individual. I don't know the Premier's individual health circumstances or other issues that she may have discussed with her own GP, and I don't want to know. That's for her. And so I have no issue with this at all. I think perhaps the Premier would have been better advised just to be upfront about the dog bite and these other issues that has delayed her jab. The excuse she gave on Twitter yesterday for going to Tokyo wasn't the best, perhaps, framing to put this issue, but she only get 280 characters on Twitter. So look, I'm not going to be overly critical here. This is a medical choice. Let's try and tone down the judgment, I think, that we have on individuals on their own medical choices.
But I guess the concern is that it would affect confidence for those aged over 50, that if the Premier's not having AstraZeneca, then why should they? Do you accept that it could have a confidence blowback for those aged over 50?
Well, look, I don't know if the Premier's choice alone would make that difference. Obviously, there has been a confidence hit to AstraZeneca for good reason. There have been some risks highlighted there. Now, very rare risks, but still risks that would cause some to obviously think through that. What I've always hoped and advocated for is that we try and provide people choice. Now, we have a certain line here at 50 years age. I'm happy to let the authorities make these decisions, but I don't think the day you become 50 years and one day the risks drop off a cliff compared to being 49 years and 364 days old. There's not much difference between those circumstances. So that's a little bit arbitrary. But what I'd like to see is we get more of this Pfizer, get more choice. The more choice we have, the more options we have, the more likelihood we are going to maximise the amount of vaccination uptake in this country and therefore protect us all.
Okay, just finally, what sort of a shot in the arm or what sort of speaking of which, what sort of a show is Townsville going to put on tomorrow night?
Excuse the pun. Oh, mate, well, Queensland's going to win, obviously, so that will be good news for a start. I'm sure you'd agree.
Sure,
Peter. But it's going. Look, it will be a great event. I mean, it's unfortunate circumstances how this came about with the Melbourne lockdown, but I think we'll look back on it and something historic for North Queensland, for rugby league to take. This is, I believe, the first State of Origin game not to be hosted in a capital city. So great for Townsville, and because of that, there's just going to be such an outpouring of support. I think the atmosphere there will be as good, if not better, than you get at Lang Park. So,
okay.
Or go the Maroons.
Yeah, I agree. Matt Canavan, good to chat. We'll talk to you soon.